Hi, I'm Katie.
And I'm Angela.
And welcome to Scratch Hacks.
Today we are looking at 3 ideas to do for gifts for a Secret Santa.
They're all chocolate because we love chocolate. We have peppermint bark, some cocoa balls that are like no-bake cookies, and then a mocha mix.
Each of these have in mind with the idea that you might have to make a lot of them for either school or for your office. Also the idea that they're going to be a little bit on the cheaper side, a little bit on the easier side, but all of them are super delicious.
And as always, we encourage you to alter our recipes to your taste. The first thing we're going to make is mocha in a jar. You might recognize it. It's something that everyone kind of does. It's that hot chocolate layered effect in a jar, and it's easy to put together and pretty to give, but it has coffee in it, which is our favorite thing.
We have half a cup of powdered sugar, half a cup of powdered milk, a quarter cup of unsweetened cocoa powder, and a quarter cup of instant coffee.
We added a little bit of cinnamon to it, but you can also add, there's something called vanilla sugar that you can add to it to round out the flavor a little bit more. Anything that you typically put in your coffee or your mocha even, you could include.
You can throw in some peppermints in there to make it a peppermint mocha. In ours, we threw in some marshmallows
to make it like really hot chocolatey. Okay, so you just mix all the ingredients together and you can put it in any type of container. For whatever reason, we wanted mason jars, but near us, I don't know why, but we couldn't find anything. So we found these from our local art store. I think it's to mix paints in. Another thing you can add to it, just to make it a little bit more special, chocolate covered spoons. We thrifted ours, got a couple of them to dip them in chocolate. Again, we found these little toppers at the art store, but you could also use the corner of a Ziploc bag and just put a bow around it, and that would be pretty cute as well.
If you're giving this gift to an adult, you can always forego the chocolate spoon and do a little travel size of Bailey's or Kahlua with it and make it a spiked hot mocha, which would be delicious.
That's all the things.
So our next treat is peppermint bark. This is something that my husband's family has every year. The main trick to this, do not get worried, is a double boiler.
You don't have to double boiler. It is the best way to melt your chocolate down to get the most even consistency, but you can microwave it. I recommend doing it in a glass bowl similar to these, putting a little bit of canola oil at the bottom and stir it every 15 seconds.
For today, we're going to show you how to do the double boiler in the traditional sense.
The idea for a double boiler is that you want the steam to heat the chocolate and not the water. So just make sure that your bowl doesn't actually touch the water in the pan. If any water gets into your chocolate, it's going to seize and make chocolate that weird, chalky, tasteless, burnt taste. So we don't want that.
We're going to need 8 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate chips and 8 ounces of white chocolate chips.
You're going to want to do something a little bit darker because it's a little bit more bitter. And white chocolate has that very sweet taste.
This doesn't make a whole lot. It filled about half of a sheet pan worth.
Feel free to double, triple, or quadruple our recipe.
You're going to want to melt the dark chocolate first and then spread it on a half sheet pan that's lined with parchment paper. Then you're going to want to put that in the fridge for a couple of hours so that can set. We're going to kind of skip that step for right now and show you how to temper the white chocolate, and that's where we're going to add the peppermint extract to. It's the same exact method.
The only thing is if you keep it too cold, if you bring it out into the fridge and pour the white chocolate immediately over top, sometimes they won't stick together properly. So my recommendation is to take it out maybe a half an hour before you want to pour on your white chocolate. That way you know for sure that the layers will combine. So we're going to put our white chocolate on our boiler. There's no steam touching the chocolate at all. We're going to put a little bit of canola oil in.
Like a tablespoon.
And it'll just melt a little bit easier. I find too that it's texturally a little bit softer when the bark is done, which is kind of nice. White chocolate melts a little bit faster because it's confection and not a chocolate. So our chocolate is nice and smooth. So now we're going to add a little bit of our peppermint. You're not going to want to use a ton of this because it will curdle and because its water content is so high. And if you add too much at the same time, I think that also will make it curdle a little bit. So that looks about good to me. I mean, since it's just for us, we can just taste it. Good, right?
That's good.
Yeah. So it still has that shininess to it, which is really good. And it's pretty pliable. So now you can pour it over top of the chocolate mixture, spread it out. I like to also slam it on the counter a little bit just to get rid of any air bubbles and also to make sure it's pretty even. And sprinkle your crushed candies on top.
The candy canes we got are from a local store that's been around for 150 years.
Crazy.
It's a local confectionery.
Yeah.
And you can let it cool for another hour or so in the fridge. And then once it comes out, just take it out of your sheet pan and just snap it.
Yeah.
It's super easy. And part of it is that it's homemade and it's bark, so they're not supposed to all be the same size.
So our last recipe are no-bake cookies called cocoa balls. They're a Swedish recipe from my stepdad. He's from Sweden. And when we would go visit family over there, I would always find the cocoa balls. This is one of my favorite things in the whole world. They're super simple to put together and they're so good for kids because they're no-bake and you have to use your hands.
My friend is a kindergarten teacher and she makes these with her students and it's just perfect because it's no bake, so you don't.
It's cheap too.
It's super cheap.
Yeah. So the first thing you're going to do with a lot of baking is you're going to add the dry ingredients first. So we're going to do the oats because that's the base.
Yep, we have about 4 cups of rolled oats, 1 1/4 cup of white sugar. We have 1/2 cup of unsweetened cocoa powder.
Take a wooden spoon. It's kind of easier, or like a spatula because you're going to have butter all over it, which will make it a little bit easier to wipe down the sides. All right, so now's the messy part.
We have 1 cup or 2 sticks of softened butter. This is like the fun part of
Yeah,
this.
smoosh it all together. I'm about it. It's like Play-Doh that's covered in chocolate. Who doesn't want this? Like, no one. So the one thing that my stepdad always told me is that you don't want to make the, overmix the oat mixture because it makes it a little bit gummy. You want it to be texturally different. You don't want it to be just like one big like glutinous mass.
I love my food processor.
She loves it.
This is not a job for the food processor, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But again, is another reason why it's so good for kids.
Okay, so it's about crumbly. It's almost like a crumble like topping. We replaced the vanilla sugar in here. It's like a Swedish ingredient with vanilla extract.
We're gonna use just about a tablespoon of the homemade vanilla. We have 2 tablespoons of strong coffee. We might put a little bit extra in.
You need a little bit of coffee in there to help bind it, and also it gives depth of flavor to cocoa. I love this. They're so good. They make me so happy. So we're gonna roll our balls down. It's completely depending on how you like your confections. Typically they're kind of big than what we would think they would be for a cookie.
And they're gonna stay as balls, right? We don't flatten them out like a traditional American cookie.
Nope. Looks like the size of a golf ball. We have 2 different toppings to do. We have chocolate sprinkles and coconut. Coconut is the most traditional. So we're gonna put them in the refrigerator and that's when we have to put it in there for like 3 hours to overnight. Preferably overnight. We want that time to soften the oats.
So those are our 3 takes on Secret Santa ideas. Let us know what you think. What do you do for Secret Santa? Do you call it Pollyanna?
Yeah, it seems to be like a New Jersey, Philly thing, or I guess PA thing.
Let us know what you think of our recipes. Subscribe, comment, follow us on Instagram, got a Facebook. We're everywhere right now.
Yeah, we are. It's a lot. Well, thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
See ya.
No, wherever you work. I don't know what I'm saying.
You can keep it in your desk. Just 8 jars of Mocha.
1/2 cup of powdered milk.
Milk. We also have on the table, obviously. It's not in the sky. And honestly, the kids are probably better at baking. That's really harsh. And for kids, adults, and if you like delicious chocolate balls.